Alright, clear my throat, get my voice organised. A bit of water to make everything work properly. YouTube and the live dashboard has been a complete pain today. I have to say it's been more difficult than normal to actually get anything to work properly. So if I get a live stream coming through which is healthy and strong, that would be awesome. Anyway, seems like the sound's coming through. You will let me know if there are problems with the sound or the video, the actual picture. How's it going, Scott? Hello, Cassandra Lee. I'm glad you were waiting. Hopefully you didn't have to wait too long. And I'm now here. So you will find the start time for this video down in the description. For those of you who want to skip past all of my sort of setup and waffle and stuff like that, the start time will be down there. You just might find that the start time takes a little bit of time to update, because I noticed that the thumbnail for this video did not update. I'm assuming that will happen sometime from now when YouTube gets things sorted out. And for those of you who are wondering what's the story with this particular video, well, it's my plan to sort of do a series of videos of this nature, really sort of bite-sized in nature. And also because right now this is where my head is at, so I'm going to go with what my head says rather than anything else. Head in my heart, head in my heart. Okay, so normally what I do, if you haven't been part of my live streams, is I present everything first, and then once I've presented everything, I then open it up for questions and answers. I'm going to be following the same format today. How's it going, Darren? How's it going, Peg Paints? Hello, how you doing? All right, I will get started. Looks like the people are in the room. They're ready for the show, so let's get it going. Hi, welcome to HowtoDandD. My name is Fred Wheeler, and today I want to talk about Dungeons and Dragons. And I'm not really here to talk about Dungeons and Dragons rules, although my channel is certainly very much about that sort of thing. Really, this is a video for the Dungeon Master. And I really want to talk about a particular style of Dungeon Master. If there's any message that I want to give to you when you're playing Dungeons and Dragons and running the game of Dungeons and Dragons, and that is this message, that it is actually important to look after your mental health and your physical health. And the message I want to communicate to you is that being a lazy dungeon master, that particular attitude is actually quite healthy and it's quite smart, simply because we can't all have copious amounts of time available to actually do the sorts of things we would like to do. Life makes things more difficult than we might expect sometimes, or we might want. I am a huge fan of Mike Shull. He is also called Sly Flourish. He has a number of ebooks, and one of those books is called The Lazy Dungeon Master, which you can see. This is the cover right now in front of you. This is the cover of that particular ebook. He also has a number of other books which we'll talk about as we go. So being a lazy dungeon master is not really for everybody. So I want to make it clear that just because I'm talking about this particular topic doesn't mean it's for you. I still think it's a smart and healthy way to operate, but it's not always the right way to operate for everybody. It's hard to be a lazy dungeon master. Okay, it really is very, very difficult to actually put yourself in a situation where you try to be lazy deliberately without doing a huge amount of work, because it requires the dungeon master not to worry. Is there such a thing as a dungeon master that doesn't worry about this stuff? Because I don't know that there is. I know a lot of people who just don't stop worrying about running the game, and this is something that's supposed to be fun. It's kind of strange, right? If you have not read the ebook The Lazy Dungeon Master, I would recommend that you do, and I have provided a link to the PDF, which you can get off Amazon. I don't know if I've also included a link to Sly Flourish's website, but if I haven't, I'll make sure to do that, and that will give you sort of a really good breakdown of how to be a lazy dungeon master. But recently, he's also released Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master, which is sort of the second book. So if you're going to buy the Lazy Dungeon Master, you might as well go and buy the new one, which is the Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master. Now, he's got a YouTube channel. You can go and check out his YouTube channel. It covers lots of really good advice. He goes into depth on the content that's in that ebook, and also you can get a soft cover, a paper-covered book copy if you wanted to. And it goes into a lot of detail about really smart ways of operating as a dungeon master, because people have busy lives. So spending lots of time on the game preparation and all the resources that you need to actually run the game, and just the mental space of preparing yourself, okay, it's not really possible or reasonable for normal people, like the normal individual in the world doesn't have the time to spend doing all the things they would like to do, even if they would like to do those things. So you have to create what are called shortcuts. Shortcuts are really important. And the attitude of a lazy dungeon master is really the thing that I want to talk about today. Rather than, all the strategies you might use, which I will certainly talk about later in other videos, I want to talk about how to actually cultivate and what the attitude of a lazy dungeon master actually looks like. Because when we say lazy, we always assume that being lazy is a bad thing, okay? And quite often being lazy is, but there are times when being lazy is actually a good thing, and this is one time when being lazy can be a very good thing for your health. So let's have a talk about how to do that, what it looks like, and what sort of things might be holding you back. So it's a process, unfortunately, being a lazy dungeon master. It's a process of letting go of your fears. Just saying, to hell with it, jump out of the plane, jump off the cliff, and just see what happens. Now, I know that sounds risky because you are having to take quite a big risk by doing that, but it's actually important for you to allow yourself the opportunity to just see what will happen, rather than thinking you can control absolutely everything in your game and your life, because you can't. It's not knowing what the story path will be. Sometimes all you can do is prepare the next session, and you won't get past that. And whatever you have prepared for that one game session might not even take place, because the players might decide to do something that you weren't expecting. There's always that possibility. So allowing yourself to prepare material for your game in a short space of time, and not worry so much about the path of the story or adventure. Broad brushstrokes are always a good thing, and just jump out of that plane and just see where you land. It requires you to not really care what happens with the player's characters. Now, that sounds terrible, doesn't it? Not caring about character death. Really not getting so invested and uptight about the possibility that somebody's character might die. Because it's not the end of the story, and it's one of the things that holds dungeon masters back quite a lot. The fear that there'll be a complete party wipe, or a character will die. They're worried about the effect on their campaign and how to continue the story. They're worried about the effect it will have on players. Will they come back to my table? I know that comes through my mind every time a character dies at the table. Will my player get so upset they will not return? That is always a fear that's rattling around in your brain. And the fact is, often it is an unfounded fear, because players do come back to the table even when a character dies. And it's how you approach character death too. Being absolutely desperate to try and keep your monsters and your main villain alive in your campaign. So no matter what happens, you've got to try and make sure that the players' characters don't take out the main boss too quickly, because what happens then? How am I supposed to manage that situation? I wasn't actually preparing for that. That was the actual main villain. Now I don't have a main villain because they've been destroyed, because I wasn't expecting the synergy between all the players' abilities to be so effective. So actually allowing yourself to say, I don't care if my monsters or my main villain perishes. If they perish and die, never mind, I will make something else. That's fine. I can just do something else. Not being sure what to do or say next. Oh, this is a big one for Dungeon Masters. Literally, like, I don't know what's going to happen next because the players haven't done it yet, and I have to see what they do before I can respond. Not knowing what to say next, and just improvise. This is a skill. It's clearly a skill for advanced Dungeon Masters, and newer Dungeon Masters might find this very, very scary and certainly much harder to do. But as you get better at practicing it, it will get easier. That's the whole point. So allowing yourself an opportunity to not be sure what will happen. One of the best things I've ever done in my entire life as a Dungeon Master is I had a session where I had prepared nothing. I didn't know what I was going to do, and I just walked in and I said, okay, we're going to play. And I just let the players perform their actions. I responded. I thought at the end of that particular game session that it was a terrible game session, that it was appalling, like one of the worst Dungeon Master sessions I had ever run. Like it was my fault, right? And the players told me at the end that they had so much fun and they really enjoyed it. And suddenly my understanding and perception of what was a good game session had to change because it kept happening to me. Every once in a while, I would not have enough time to prepare, and the players would say, no, it was a good session. We enjoyed it. So yes, making sure you allow yourself to be surprised by your players. Allow your players to surprise you and do things you were not expecting. That's a big thing. Okay, this is a hard one, and to be fair, the advice on this one relates to my channel as well. Okay, I want to make it clear, it's not just my channel or other people on the internet, and that is try to work against all the advice on YouTube and the internet. One of the things you've got to understand is the advice that you're listening to from me or another YouTuber or somebody else on a blog, on the internet, or anything like that. How much interaction have you had with those people? Are they complete strangers? Are they actually good at giving you good advice? Is the advice they're giving you actually tested? Are they in the same position as you? Because I will tell you now, most of the people who are watching my channel and watching stuff on YouTube, they're not professional Dungeon Masters. I'm not a professional Dungeon Master. They're not in a situation where they're running games live as a stream where they have to produce money, that there has to be an income rollover of some kind. They're not professional actors. They're not specially trained in that particular area. They are not trying to produce an income from it. So are the people who are giving you advice talking from their perspective rather than from your perspective, which is, I'm just trying to run a game in a lounge or in a basement or wherever with a few friends around, and that's all I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to do anything more than that. So sometimes the advice you're going to get is things you should probably not listen to and you should ignore because it doesn't really relate to your situation. So that's part of sort of letting go of everything. Okay, here is probably I would say one of the most important factors to understand. A lot of people don't understand this, and that is the concept of letting your games be poor or boring. Having sessions, allowing, if your session is naturally forming a pathway towards being boring or not as efficient or exciting as you had liked, allowing that path to run its course, because it happens to everybody. You need to accept it. And I know a lot of people saying, well, I don't need to accept it, but anybody has always had this problem. There are sessions that just wind up being poor and boring. And you know why a dungeon master is really worried about that happening? 1, players not coming back. 2, a reflection of their skill, because anything that happens at the table, right, has got to be a reflection of your performance and skill, and you must have done something wrong, which of course you didn't do something wrong, because there is more than you sitting at the table. Sometimes everybody just shows up to the game session and they're all just so tired they just can't put in the energy to make the session lively and entertaining and interesting, and role play in a way, or just roll dice in a way that is entertaining and exciting. So those aren't actually times that reflect your impact on the game. They could simply be a natural process because of what's happening at the table. Learning to relax. Okay, you need to sort of just chill out, learn to relax, enjoy the story, let the story unfold. Trust that your players can make the game session entertaining when you feel you can't. Because I would like to point out that one of the most successful game groups out there who stream, you know who they are, Critical Role, okay? Matthew Mercer is not the only reason that whole arrangement works so well. There are a whole lot of other people at that table who do a really good job. And Matthew Mercer has talked about the fact that he really struggles with trying to relax before a session, that he gets quite nervous. Now you have a look at all the players, they are all very, very much relaxed. So that's where you need to be as a dungeon master. Just let it go, let it be. Nerves are always sort of natural. But yeah, trust that your players can make the game session entertaining, that you aren't the only one who is responsible for making that take place. And then the last thing I want to talk about, and that is limiting your preparation. You need to have some shortcuts. So limit your preparation, the time you spend before a game, because there are going to be life schedule issues. There are going to be things that happen in your life that are more important than preparing for Dungeons and Dragons and playing the game of Dungeons and Dragons. So whether it's going to the dentist, picking up the kids, picking up the milk and the food shopping, feed the fish, feed the cat, clean the kitchen, all those sorts of things. Dry cleaning, cleaning the house, going to swimming classes. Just allow yourself an opportunity to understand that you can't put in the sort of time that you would like to make that happen. So you're going to need to have, as I've said, lots and lots of shortcuts. We can't always plan for absolutely everything. That is really the message for today. And ultimately, try and relax. Be a lazy dungeon master. Look after yourself. Now, this is your opportunity to give me some feedback. What do you think of this attitude? Is this the right way of operating for you? Have you read or used the Lazy Dungeon Master, or the Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master, or even used the Lazy Dungeon Master's workbook that Mike Shull, or Sly Flourish, as most of us probably know, if you have heard of him before, he's usually referred to as Sly Flourish. He's been on the internet for years, and he does have some very good advice. Pick the stuff that works for you and dump the stuff that doesn't. That's my advice to you. And my advice is always, if this doesn't feel like the right way for you, then ignore me completely. It's perfectly fine too. Now, if you want to support the channel, you did so by watching this video. I have hundreds more videos for players and dungeon masters, which you are welcome to go and check out if you like. I don't do Patreon, but I do have affiliate links down in the description, and there should be links to all of these books if you are interested. Now, share, like, and subscribe. Hit the bell button to be notified when I go live and when I publish new videos. And till next time, keep rolling those 20s. Okay, I'm not gone. I'm not too sure what is happening with the live stream. I just wanted to see what's going on. It looks like it's still healthy. It looks like people are coming through. I am just going to do a quick update and then flick myself over to the face cam. Let's see if it'll come up now. Okay, there it is, so I can see myself. That's a good sign. So now can I get it to update? Because right now I can't tell if you guys can see me or hear me. So if you're in the live chat, by all means, this is a good time to communicate with me so I can see. I'm just going to do a quick update. See a refresh. All right, it looks like it's coming through. I can't see the chat box. Ah, there it is. Okay, cool. Chat box has come up. Let's have a look through the questions and answers and the feedback. What do we got here? Peg Productions. I think I've already said hello to Peg Productions. Hello, how's it going, Cassandra? Darren, how's it going? It's a good book. Yes, absolutely, it is a good book. But then again, there will be some people who will not see any value in that particular style of play. And really, it is a style of play. You know, I think a lot of people forget that playing the game is not just playing characters. It is being a dungeon master and playing monsters and NPCs. That's still playing the game. Scott, lazy as in efficient, I assume. Yeah, lazy as in efficient. I've used the word lazy because I know it's got negative connotations, the word lazy, but I feel like it is a good reflection of the attitude that you need to sort of develop if you want to be able to play Dungeons and Dragons for a long time without finding a time where you just don't feel like you have time to prepare enough to actually run the game. I've heard many dungeon masters say, I cancelled the game because I had nothing prepared. And I always think, do you know what happened at that particular point? You cancelled the game because you had nothing prepared, and so nobody plays Dungeons and Dragons, so you're all sitting at home doing something else, which there's nothing wrong with doing, or you can go out and do something else. But you've just lost an opportunity to actually explore and develop your own skills by deciding, I won't try and do this. I found myself in this situation many times, and that is really the only reason why I feel more comfortable with doing that. Darren, I have that and the new version as well. Yes, I have the older version. I'm still in the process of getting the new version, but honestly, Mike has done a great job on YouTube of going through all of the elements of his book. And I should actually put a link to his YouTube channel where you can actually have a look at the content that he's created, because it's fantastic. Okay, Scott, what do you got here? Lazy as efficient, we got that. Okay. Oh, where's my glasses? I had my glasses around here somewhere. I've lost them again. Where did I put them? I don't see them anywhere. Okay. I need my glasses to find my glasses. Sorry. Mastincia. Hopefully I got it right. Mastincia. The villain was struck, turned into 1,000 shards, spread all over the world, and that's the end of him. No matter if the player go north or south, the story goes on. Exactly. Yeah, it doesn't matter which way they go, the story will continue on no matter what. Peg Productions. Hi, how's it going? How would one become a dungeon master once a dungeon master? Are there any economic benefits to being a dungeon master? To be fair, there are usually no economic benefits to being a dungeon master or a player, and as a general rule, if you're a dungeon master, it'll cost you more than the players spend. My experience is that dungeon masters spend more money than players on the game. That's always seems to be the case. It's not always the case, but it certainly seems to be a very regular occurrence. So if you're looking for a way of becoming rich by being a dungeon master, it really doesn't happen. Even the likes of those people who do it as a profession, they don't make a lot of money doing it. They have to have a lot of other income sources, which is why you're all watching a lot of sponsored ads on YouTube videos right now, because they're trying to stay afloat. Even the likes of Critical Role, there's 5 or 6 minutes worth of sponsorship before they actually run their game. And Matthew Mercer would probably be one of the few dungeon masters and those who are operating out of Wizards of the Coast who can do it as a profession, really. There are a few who do get paid, but like I said, few and far between. If I used that hack, no matter where the players did go, story happened, something was there to do. Happy players, happy me, not so happy princess. Well, that's fine. But the princess is just a fictional character, right? So as long as you're keeping yourself and the players happy, it's all good. Capture the evil sorcerer in the liquid ice. Store it for later. Look, the thing with villains being killed and destroyed is, I think a lot of people assume that when a character dies or a villain dies or a monster dies, that they can't use that villain or monster, or that players can't continue to play that character. It's called magic, right? And when a character dies or a monster dies or a villain dies, somebody can use magic to bring them back. Or if you really want to twist things around, when you kill an evil mage, maybe somebody resurrects them and they wind up coming back later on as a lich or an undead servant of some kind, or a dragon gets destroyed but somebody brings it back to life and it winds up becoming a Dracolich. So there are a lot of different ways of dealing with it. So remember, Dungeons and Dragons, you can do anything. Darren, Peg Production, best advice would be to pick up the starter set. Yes, the starter set is a good box and go from there. I find you lose money as a DM unless you get your players to pay for books and modules. You absolutely do, Darren. It just seems to be the way. Now, I'm going to have a lot of trouble. I'm going to try to pronounce this name correctly. Esserhadin. Esserhadin. If I've pronounced your name incorrectly, I do apologise. Thank you. I am trying to keep my head up. I am keeping myself busy, you might have noticed. Just doing other things, particularly since it's a long weekend in New Zealand. You're welcome, Peg Productions, no problem. Darren gave you some very good advice. I have a huge Dungeon Master guide on the Lost Mine of Phandelver, which is the adventure in the Dungeons & Dragons 5e starter set. And I'm sure you will find it really useful for running the game. I know a lot of people have. Okay, what else we got here? We can hear and see you. That's good. Peg Productions. How would you go around making your own game similar to D&D, but also Warhammer, and then also introducing this to your group? Well, there's so much information on Warhammer Fantasy that really, if that's what you're talking about, Warhammer Fantasy, that shouldn't be an issue. I think you will find there's plenty of third-party publishers that will probably have made stuff that fits into that kind of world. It won't be exact because it is a licensed franchise, and Games Workshop are very protective of their stuff. There's plenty of lore, there's plenty of information. Finding books on it's not going to be difficult. Really, Warhammer Fantasy is just a lot more darker and more ruthless. I think that's probably, when I think about Games Workshop worlds and what they put out, their stuff is just, the world is dangerous and life is short, and there's this dark feeling. So, and there's always war going on. There just isn't a time when there isn't some sort of war taking place. So there's plenty of conflict that you can integrate into your campaign. I think that running a Dungeons and Dragons 5e game in the world of Warhammer would be more like political war rather than sort of going and exploring dungeons. I think you would be dealing with a much bigger landscape. Your canvas would be larger. The political aspect would be huge, and the interplay between different nations would be massive. Thraka Watson, how's it going? I think I got it right. Thraka Watson. I made it. Saw the notification and hurried home. It's been a bit weird. YouTube has been putting out some very strange signals when I was doing this live stream setup. So I don't know why, but apparently that's what's going on. Peg Productions. There is a Warhammer Fantasy Rpg. Yes, there is. I believe it is on Amazon too. Yep. there is absolutely a Warhammer Fantasy game. It isn't Dungeons and Dragons, but they have their own system. I don't know enough about it to be able to advise you on whether it's worth your money or whether you will enjoy it. You'll just have to do a bit of research. Yeah, I've heard of it, but I'm in the process of making this myself. Right, okay. I cross over between future and fantasy. Well, a mixture is always nice. Everybody runs their game differently, right? You run the game that you enjoy. So some people have high fantasy, some people have low fantasy, some people have high magic, low magic. Some people integrate technology and machines. Other people don't like that sort of thing. You do the mix that works for you. Monkey Work, how's it going, Monkey Work? Hi there. Have you ever looked into the Fantasy Trip by Steve Jackson? If so, options on it. No, I haven't really. I've read a lot of Steve Jackson's books when he was doing the Fighting Fantasy books when I was a teenager and a lot younger. But I haven't really looked at Steve Jackson's content for a very long time. I've just been notified that I am doing a painting and Dungeons and Dragons duo drone miniature paint for Nols's. That's really strange. YouTube, get your stuff sorted out. I don't know what you're doing in the background there, but it ain't working. Okay, and now Peg Productions. I've got rough rules and character sheets, just developing weapons and what's that? Stratum cards, as well as monsters. My advice to you, Peg Productions, if you are really making a game that is new, is make a game that can be played by a young audience. And with if people keep putting out products that are designed for 12 years old, complexity upward, they are going to. It means that the parents who would like to play the game can't play the game with the younger kids. So if you can make a game that can be played by a 5-year-old upward, you're doing really well. I don't think anybody has done it successfully. Not on a big, something that appeals to adults and to younger players, and they can deal with the complexity. If you can do that, then you're doing really, really well. And I'm sure whatever product you put out will make a lot of money. Okay, Jetwell135, how's it going? Dang time zone, I've just woke up, so I'll have to watch the start of the stream. Not a problem. As always, like I've said, I usually release my live streams as an edited version either weeks or a month later, sometimes even months later. So if you don't like watching the live streams, that's fine. Mike, how's it going, Mike? Mike G. Hi, Fred. Been a busy summer here, working lots, but just noticed you're live and wanted to say hello. Thank you, Mike. Hello to you. I hope your summer is going well. My winter is going very cold. My toes are starting to go numb because I'm sitting still. It's not a good sign when you sit still in winter. I'm going to have to chuck either a heater or a blanket on me, something like that. Right. Isur Haladin. I think I've got it right. Isur How. Okay, Isur Howdin. Isur Howdin. Like the Bailoran king. I don't know who that Bailoran king is, but okay. Isur Howdin. Isur Howdin. Okay, I think I got it. You let me know if I got it wrong. Quite a fan of the World of Darkness and its storyteller system. Okay. I don't really know an awful lot about that particular system. I am pretty busy, so I don't really get an opportunity to read extensively. Normally I would be fully employed, and I'm still running a channel that produces a lot of content, so I find myself jumping from one thing to another pretty quickly. I don't really have a lot of time to sort of sit down and read extensively and check out other things. Okay, Darren. Hey, Mike. Hope you are staying safe up north, out of the fire. Is there a fire up north? Ooh. Okay, Fred, I recall those fighting fantasy books. I used to check them out by the pile from the library. What a flashback you gave me. Yeah, well, that's how I played Dungeons and Dragons, really, when I had nobody to play with. The twist plot and the twist plot books, the fighting fantasy books. You know, where you read a book and you picked your path and you rolled a few dice to determine the outcome, which really in the end wound up being a waste of time, right, rolling the dice, because if you failed the fight, you were just going to have to go back through it again anyway. So yeah, that's really how I played Dungeons and Dragons when nobody else wanted to play the game with me when I was a teenager. Later on, it wasn't till I was a little bit older that I got to play with my brothers and sisters, and we played Hero Quest. As it happens, we played Hero Quest because it was simple enough for them to understand, and I could play it, and I enjoyed it. And over time, that's sort of, you develop and you work into other things. I just need a drink of water. Hang on. Hey Fred, I've been playing in a West Marches style game. Okay, with an open sandbox that I've mapped. What do you think of this style of play? I think it's a really cool style of play. It also requires you to be willing to allow the players to integrate their own ideas into your game and your world and your adventure. So I actually like the style of play. It is not necessarily something that a new dungeon master will find very easy to do. I feel like if you are running that style of game or playing in that style of game, that you are probably quite experienced and been doing it for some time, because a new player would probably struggle with that type of gameplay. And even experienced dungeon masters and players sometimes don't like the sandbox adventure. That's something that they don't really sort of enjoy. I try to limit each game in 4 to 5 hour adventures. Yeah, I think that's smart, because if you overplan or over-prepare, then you actually have wasted a whole lot of time, particularly if they can go anywhere they like. So you really can only prepare for one session at a time. And that's often what I would do, is I would only ever prepare for about one session at a time, even when I was running a pre-written adventure. I might read through the whole stuff if I was running a pre-made adventure, but nowadays I actually prefer really short bite-sized adventures that I can string together, and I will just select an overarching villain, which I will not necessarily present straight away. Their lieutenants might appear, but if you stick the big bad up in front too soon, sometimes that'll scare the players, and sometimes they might actually figure out how to deal with them a bit too quickly. So yeah. Thank you for your help, man. You're welcome, Peg Production. All the best with your game development. Darren, seems like there always a fire up in the northern Alberta? Northern Alberta. Hey, thank you, Mike, for the super chat. Northern Alberta. So does Northern Alberta get a lot of fires in summer? Past few years. Maybe things change, I guess. We don't get a lot of fires in New Zealand because it's so wet and damp and humid. It's quite rare. And also too, when the fire ban is in place, trust me, the government and those people dealing with that sort of thing jump down on people pretty hard. So yes, I know that you start to have billowing smoke in a location, and then everybody's there pretty quickly. Okay, Monkey Work. Reason I asked about Fantasy Trip is that its character NPC and monster creation is amazingly simple. It also works well solo. Right. Yep. I know. I don't know who is it that Jim Murphy. I believe Jim Murphy has a YouTube channel, and he talks a lot about the Fantasy Trip. I've watched a couple of his videos on the topic. He's a fan. He loves the Fantasy Trip. And I think that simple character NPC monster creation is a really good thing. it means that you can pretty much do anything you like, and you can do it quickly and simply. So yes, yeah, it's actually worth going and checking out Jim Murphy's content. He hasn't put any videos up recently, but still go and check out his stuff. It's really good. And also a channel that I've watched grow and is probably much more popular than mine now, and that is the DM Lair. Luke on the DM Lair does some great content. I don't always agree with everything he says, but I don't think anybody does agree with absolutely everything that somebody else says anyway. So yes, go check out his channel, and I'm just trying to think of some others. It'll pop into my mind. I'm sure it will. Does it have or has done dragons that you can ride? I'm not too sure. I can't understand that sentence. Sorry. Okay, Mike G, let's get to you. I hope you continue to create content as always. Really appreciate it, and I'm sure it helps others as well as myself. I think, Mike, I've been really reluctant to do Patreon, and I've been really reluctant to do merchandising, and I've been reluctant to do all the things that other people are doing. But I know if I go back to doing a 9-to-5 job in retail and so forth, that I will find it really, really difficult to survive. And so I'm probably going to do a lot of the things that I had planned to do slowly over time. I'm probably going to just do them now. So you might see quite a few things happen. I've already talked to somebody about creating a range of dice bags and shirts. My brother, I will get him to design it. I was thinking of like a 20-sided dice with the 20 showing, with a dragon with its tail wrapped around the dice. Because one of the things I always found frustrating was you couldn't buy the stuff that you wanted when you were playing Dungeons and Dragons. If you wanted a cool dice bag, you couldn't get the thing on it that you wanted. They weren't fun, or they were stupidly expensive. So yeah, I'm going to have a talk to my brother about him designing that and then getting some stuff done. So you probably will see content from me. I just don't know the frequency of it, and I will probably make some significant changes to this channel and my life and how I run my life, because I'm sick and tired of trying to work for other people and teach, and it just not working out. So that's what's happening. Okay, Mike, Darren. Yeah, the smoke here last summer at work outside was so thick at 2 p.m. Oh my gosh. You couldn't even use a flashlight? Using a flashlight to see for an hour. Couldn't see 20 feet ahead. Ooh. Darren. Fred, northern Alberta is sparsely populated and mostly wilderness. Okay. Fires can get quite big, much like Australia. Yeah, well, Australia is really, really dry, and because of the heat, they get humidity as well, but they do have a drier heat than New Zealand. So, and their landscape, their fires can happen pretty quickly. I know that. So it sounds like it's quite a lot like that kind of atmosphere, Alberta. Hopefully I got that right. Monkey work. Jim Murphy is how I was introduced. It's a great rabbit hole to fall down. Yes, I like Jim Murphy. He has some interesting perspectives. Certainly, he's played the game across generations. And I would imagine, just like anything, Jim Murphy won't be a cup of tea for everybody, just like I'm not a cup of tea for everybody either. Okay, RODC, how's it going? Just wanted to say thank you for your channel and vids. You are welcome. You're welcome, Rod. No problems. Amazingly helpful. Really think about Patreon. Yeah, I will. I just don't know the structure it would look like. May would support, I am sure. Hope you are doing well. I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right. I'll be fine. I just got to get my head around the fact that I have to change the way I've done things. That's all. And yeah, it's not going to be an easy road. I know that. Jetwell 135, man, I really like that name. Jetwell. I mean, if you're going to pick a name, go with Jetwell. Hey, so I'm going to run through the starter set for a group of new players, but there are some people who have DM'd before. Okay, so if they've Dungeon Mastered before, the chances are they may have already played or read The Lost Mine of Phandelver. I know where you're going with this. Let's keep reading. I haven't ever DM'd before. Do you have any advice on how to do this so that they don't feel that they can't enjoy and not need to keep butting in? So first off, if you have good dungeon masters who are playing in your game and you are dungeon mastering for the first time, I can just about guarantee you will find that they probably won't butt in all the time, unless you have a very domineering dungeon master who's playing the game. I find that players who are dungeon masters are often, they understand, they've been there, they know what it's like to be a dungeon master, they understand the pitfalls that players will fall into or the habits they might exhibit that you will find difficult, and they will tend to not do those sorts of things. They will provide advice when they think it's necessary. They will allow you, often you'll find a dungeon master will allow you to make mistakes, and I found a lot of dungeon masters would give me advice in a form that was more of an offhand remark that wasn't offensive. So Jetwell, I wouldn't worry too much about it. I think you're in good hands. If you've got new players and you've got dungeon masters sitting at your table, people who have actually dungeon mastered, you're going to be all right. I don't think you're going to have any problems. They'll help you when they feel they need to help you, but it won't be like to take over. I think you'll find that's very, very unlikely. My advice to you is when somebody gives you advice, is take it on board. Don't necessarily use it, because you might find it doesn't work for you in that particular situation, or that you're not ready to take on that advice. So for example, this video and the content behind it, not everybody's going to be ready for this message. Some people will find that message and understand that message years from now, maybe 3 months from now. Sometimes it takes time to process that stuff. So you listen to that, let them say their thing, and then continue running the game. And then you decide later on whether you will use that information or not. That's how it should. That's how it works. That's how we grow. Mike, if anybody is interested to see Northern Alberta, you can follow my Instagram. All right, okay. All right, got it. Flying small planes. Ooh, okay. All right, so that's interesting. Monkey work. Sorry. Small Aussie YouTuber I'd recommend is Matthew Perkins. Yes, I'm subscribed to Matthew Perkins. There's actually a lot of small YouTubers who do really good content. A lot of them I've subscribed to. So Blanco covers miniatures and where to find cheap miniatures and how to sort of paint and stuff like that to a small degree. You've got who is it? Wally DM, who covers puzzles. He does lots of videos on puzzles, shows you how to do them, lays them out for you. It's a great channel. It's really unique. When you look at the content that comes out of YouTube, it's very, very unique. There's also, who is it? Drow Bard. Drow Bard is more a player resource. He covers advice on building characters and so forth. Still a good channel. The DM Lair, good channel too. He gives a lot of really good advice. He's not so small now. He's bigger than I am. And probably more popular. What else is there? For the life of me, it's skipping my mind. I know there'll be more channels that you could go and have a look at. Monkeyworks. The best players to play with, in my opinion, are brand new players or people who normally DM. Yes, absolutely new players and people who have dungeon mastered. They really do. They make some of the best people to play the game with. Because new players don't have any preconceived ideas unless they've been watching a lot of Critical Role and they're playing the game because they want to be able to have the same experience, then you might hit a few snags. But often new players and dungeon masters playing at your table will be great. At D fees. I don't know what at D fees means, Mike. Oh, at Fred. Have you ever gotten into doing mini bases with that grass and rock stuff, etc.? Yes, I have. I did that with Warhammer 40k. I don't do that now. I just don't. You know what? My problem with doing that is I found that the flocking and the stones would fall off, and they would also damage the other miniatures. So the only way to store those types of miniatures without them damaging everything else is to put them in foam dividers, and that takes up a lot of space. Whereas your modern miniature coming out from WizKids and Pathfinder, also Wizards of the Coast, when they were producing it's a softer plastic, or rubbery plastic, and therefore it doesn't hold detail well, but it survives and it will last a long time. And so it's a good, and you can store a lot of them in a container without dividers, which is why I prefer those types of miniatures quite often, particularly if I need a lot of them. That's not to say that I don't have high quality miniatures, because I do. Okay, I think that sort of covered everything. If I've answered all the questions that people wanted me to answer, that's awesome. I've been going at it for about 50 minutes, and I think it's time for me to disappear. Look, what am I going to do with myself is going to change, and you'll find out and see how that develops over time. Jean-Paul, how's it going? This is my Dungeon Master right now. Jean-Paul is in my home group, and it is currently Jean-Paul's turn to Dungeon Master, so I get to be a player, and eventually it will wrap around and it'll be my turn to be a Dungeon Master. I'm not too sure that the group are quite so happy about that possibility. We'll see. You get out what you put in as a DM. Yep. I'm fortunate that Fred's in my weekly game and always give me good advice on tricky situations, and I appreciate it, except when he misuses the polymorph spell. Yeah, okay. Yeah, we're level 10. Polymorph is coming. And there's ways of dealing with polymorph anyway. You start attacking the individual who's cast polymorph, and then suddenly they've got to make concentration checks. I know Simon, I know Kirsty and Cajun are going to be very upset that I just said that, but it's a no-brainer. You go after the individual who cast the spell, and use something other than an attack roll, and it'll get past my armor class. You can deal with saving throws are always difficult for any kind of character to deal with, particularly if they're not dex based. Okay. All right, I've said enough. Mike at Fred, thanks again for the stream. We'll be seeing Jean-Paul and you playing ever on the channel. I feel like that's unlikely because I don't have the game would have to be played at my place. I live a long way from everybody. It would have to be set up. I'd have to have a dedicated area. I don't have the space in my home. And I would have to have the technical know-how to do that. So not really going to be a possibility in the short term or even the long term. I know there are other ways of playing online. I do put up on Twitch our combats, so I will Twitch stream the combat sessions that we have, but that's it. Because, I don't feel that you guys watching us play the game is actually good for you. You should just go and play the game. James, how's it going, James? Oscar, hi sir, I'm running Tomb of Annihilation by Discord and Google Hangouts. I think Theatre of the Mind helps a lot sometimes, and I use my Playmath, just draw, or Playmat or Playmath? Playmat must be. Miniatures and tokens. Okay, I'll see you later. I'll see you, Darren. New job opportunities. No, I don't want to be a DM consultant. No, I don't. actually, I don't want to do that. I feel it would ruin. It would. The problem is, I would wind up falling into the same trap that all the other big YouTubers do. That are having to use sponsorship on their channels for Dungeons and Dragons, and also too, I'm in the wrong country for that. It took AJ Pickett, who's in New Zealand with a New Zealand accent, a very long time and the right type of content to build up so he could do it full time. And he has to work very, very hard at it. So I think it'll be something else. Did Sly Flourish okay this video title? No, he did not. Absolutely not. No, I'm promoting his product, but yeah, being a lazy dungeon master. So absolutely, he did not okay this. So if you're, but look, I don't think that you can say that being a lazy dungeon master is, and the title is going to be one of those things that you can copyright. He certainly, his book is copyrighted and the content in it is, but the idea behind it, a lot of the advice that he gives in that book are things that I've been talking about for a long time, and he's been talking about forever as well. They're no-brainers in many cases. But yes, if you were wanting to know, James, looks like I'm late to the party. Yeah, a bit late. How's it going, Matt? Hello. Okay, look, I'm going to head off. I think this is time for me to go. And Jetwell, what do you got here? Thanks heaps, Fred. All the best, mate. And I hope during this time you can find some good rest and recuperation. Yeah, I'm going to try and do that. In fact, I'm probably going to be painting in a few hours, maybe an hour and a half or so forth, because I have a barrel mimic to finish. So you'll probably see me up online. I don't know how much I'll do, because I've been talking so long right now. Okay, take care, everybody. So have a have a good night, have a good day, have a good morning, afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Look after yourself and your family. And I will see you in the next live stream, which will probably be in about an hour and a half. But you don't have to watch that. Remember, I'm in a collective. Not all the content's for you.